Back on the shot clock on TYT Sports, we're going to be discussing some of our overrated. We discussed our overrated, I should say. We're now going to move on to our underrated starting five, joined again by Andre Snellings. If you want to check out the overrated clip, make sure to click on the link. It's probably in the top right-hand corner or left-hand corner or in the description box. I promise it's somewhere. We went back and forth. It was a lot of fun. Now, for the underrated starting five, Andre, mine goes in about 44 different directions. And I have slashes, and because I have multiple guys at multiple positions. But I will, by the time you are done giving me your starting five, have a concrete five. Andre, who are your five?
I had a couple that were kind of close, and actually, for people that haven't, you should check out the overrated list because something that Jason said on the overrated list is going to change my point guard. Initially, I had Kyle Lowry as my starting point guard, but as Jason has pointed out, he may tail off a little bit. It's hard to tell, but he has done that in the past. So if not Kyle Lowry, I'll say my underrated point guard is Eric Bledsoe from Phoenix. As shooting guard, I'll go with Jimmy Butler from Chicago. Small forward, I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard from San Antonio.
I knew you were going to take Kawhi, too.
You don't want me to take Kawhi? Okay, well, good, because that was another one I had trouble with. I'll take Paul George.
My other one. I have two people written down. Keep going. Keep going.
At power forward, I'm going to go with Draymond Green.
Nice.
And then at center, I'm going to go with Old Man River. Timothy Duncan.
Oh, man. Tim Duncan is so consistently good at basketball. Tim Duncan is somebody, real quick, I was having a conversation with roommates. I don't know if they will be able to tell. I mean, I think you are a father. I know that. But one day I'll be one. And I don't know if I'm ever going to be telling my kids, like, oh, it's like that time that Tim Duncan did. Wait.
Why?
What did Tim Duncan ever really do besides be so robotically good at basketball? Oh, he's so fundamentally sound. He's still the most. I totally agree with that pick. But let's go back to the top, starting with your change over to Eric Bledsoe, the Kentucky Wildcat. Let's hear as to why.
Yeah, I feel like, like I said, whether it would have been Lowry or Bledsoe, they're kind of similar players. They're both really athletic for point guards. Mm-hmm. They're both sneaky good from the outside. They can get to the cup and just penetrate into the defense and break the defense down in ways that don't necessarily even show up in the box scores, and they just make the game easier for their teammates. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like maybe the best way to describe it, and this is true for my whole starting five, but for either Lowry or Bledsoe in particular, it's like if I took the underrated starting five that I named and put them up against the healthiest version of the overrated starting five that I named, I feel like the underrated ones would like wipe the floor with them.
Oh, yeah,
and
I agree
for those that haven't looked, my overrated starting five, they're all healthy. At least four of them are consistent MVP candidates, and the other is perennial all-star. But I just think that Lowry or Bledsoe is that good without getting the recognition.
You mentioned Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, all of which I agree with, mostly because Steph Curry is casting this ridiculous shadow over the NBA. Because, again, and please, we're not discrediting Steph Curry here. We're not calling him overrated. We're not calling him underrated. He's the freaking god of basketball as of right now, and we get that. But PG-13 has been off to a top five player start. Kawhi Leonard is a defensive wizard and also found himself improved on offense in every single statistical category. And it's Jimmy Butler's team in Chicago. I got three quick numbers for you that I know you'll enjoy. First of all, his turnover percentage is down 3 points from last year. It was about a 9.5 to a 6.8, so he's taking care of the ball more. In addition to his offense, he's only shooting 51% from the field and 50% from three, but no one talks about this guy being a 50-50-90 guy. But I love this. This is my favorite. Held Melo to 4 of 17 shooting. Held Kevin Durant to 6 of 19 shooting. Held Danilo Gallinari, I know he's only shooting 40% on the year, to 2 of 9 shooting. You don't want to have that matchup. That silent type of defense never gets credited. You're pointing it out for obvious reasons. Continue, please.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what it is. I mean, Paul George, people were kind of looking at him as a top 5 MVP candidate before his leg exploded. And the fact that he's been able to come back so strong after that is just amazing. But again, he makes a lot of his impact on offense, and it shows up because he's scoring 30 points. Jimmy Butler is kind of like a mix between the two. He also doesn't get quite as much attention because a lot of his impact is on defense. But I think he's not as good defensively as Kawhi, and he's not as good offensively either. So that's why I picked Kawhi as my most underrated of those three underrateds.
You're so spot on with that analysis, too, just because I love looking at this list. I love giving people, not just people, these players, more credit than they're getting, especially the quiet like Kawhi. Now, as for your power forward and the center, you had some interesting choices as well. Let's go through those.
I had Draymond at the power forward. I think he's starting to get a bit more attention just because Golden State is 20-0, and so that shines a light on the whole team. But I think the feeling is that it's Steph Curry and the band. You know, it's like the Jackson Five was Michael and his brothers. Whereas Draymond Green, if he's behind Steph Curry in importance on that team, he's just behind him. I mean,
yes.
Steph can go video game mode and start shooting from 45 feet. I've never seen anything like that before. But that offense works because when Steph pulls everybody out to the perimeter and he starts getting a double and triple team way behind the three-point line, he kicks it over to Draymond off of that pick and roll, and then Draymond can essentially run the point, you know, for the rest of that possession. To be able to get that from your power forward, that's amazing. And he's undersized to be a power forward. He's really a small forward. But then you take that undersized, normally that shows up on the defensive end. But on the defensive end, he's a killer. You know, so you put those two things together, he's right there with Steph. I think last year he may have been more important than Steph on the team. You know, and if Steph ever stops scoring 40 points on 80% shooting, maybe Draymond will surpass him again this year.
So 538 ran a great advanced analytic article on Steph Curry and him exactly the video game mode from shooting from 45 feet out. And Stephen A. Smith also went on a long rant about the Luke Walton thing and the coaching, and he kind of took a hit on Draymond Green, where I thought he was very wrong because that type of offense that they're running, what Draymond's been doing, if Steph does get double-teamed, more when he gets double-teamed, Draymond's there to kind of play point power forward. And that's why you see the stats now kind of catching up. He's always been the heart and soul. That man plays with a lot of intensity. Kevin Garnett, I know one of your favorites, has called him one of the best trash talkers in the NBA. Gotta love that quantifiable metric. Gotta love Draymond for those specific reasons. And he also bought Tom Izzo a Rolex for his 500th win. So, I mean, this is just an all-around underrated individual in Draymond Green. I had a lot of similar picks, especially Kawhi Leonard. I threw Harrison Barnes in there in terms of the Warriors. We talked about that already on a previous clip. Make sure to check out that one because Harrison Barnes, man, he's got a clutch factor to him, and I love it. Paul Millsap at the power forward. He's getting better every year. He's getting better every year as he gets older. And again, I put Jeff Teague on the overrated, but I put Paul Millsap on the underrated because he, in that similar Al Horford way, he can do so many different things. And I've always found Paul Millsap enjoyable to watch. I think the Hawks are a poor man's Spurs, and Paul Millsap is your poor man's almost, not Tim Duncan, but your almost poor man's Tim Duncan. He can do so much. Here's the one that is a little bit controversial that I don't think anybody would ever choose. Rondae HollisJefferson, amongst all the rookies in the NBA, is not getting any attention. And if you want to go by those nerd stats, those advanced analytics, when he is on the floor, the Nets have a +2 net efficiency, which is playoff caliber. When he's off the floor, they drop to -18. Now, I don't know how much Nets basketball you've been watching. I've caught a few of them. Jarrett Jack is not my favorite point guard to watch, but HollisJefferson is one of my favorite rookies. He's 8th in steal percentage across the league. He's 20.3 assist rate, is 7th amongst all shooting guards. But HollisJefferson at the shooting guard, extremely underrated amongst all the talk of Towns and Porzingis and Winslow and Moutier and Russell. HollisJefferson gets no coverage, and he should for that reason.
You know, we talked a little bit about the real plus-minus stat on ESPN. I mean, he's number 5 among shooting guards. And really, as I look at this list, like, number 2 is Jimmy Butler, 3 Chris Middleton, 4 Nicholas Batum, 5 Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Nice. All 4 of them would have made good picks for the underrated shooting guard.
Yeah, that's very true. In terms of the audience, your starting 5 for the most underrated players in the NBA today, leave them in the comments section below. We're here to debate with you. We'll be responding to them. Make sure to check out Andre's Hoops Lab column over at rotowire.com and Daily Fantasy Advice. I run his daily fantasy lineups. I regularly win about $1.80 because I only put down $1. So if you want to win money, follow Andre Snellings as well at Professor DRZ on Twitter. As for myself, at JasonRubin91. Like, favorite, subscribe to the video, and we'll see you next week.